Earl the Pearl, Mikey McNuggets, G. Bush will join us in a second, and it is. I have no words. The Browns suck. Jameis Winston sucked. The offensive line sucked. The receivers sucked. The defensive secondary sucked. Everyone on the team not named Myles Garrett sucked. Ken Dorsey sucked. Kevin Stefanski sucked. Dustin Hopkins sucked. Bubba Ventrone triple sucked. They all sucked. Earl, I have very little words to describe what we just watched. We spent the entire week convincing ourselves that maybe the Browns had turned the corner. But the reality is the only thing we convinced ourselves of is that we are idiots. We are prisoners of the moment. And we got completely caught up in the hype of something that was not sustainable, was not feasible long-term. And it slapped us in the face today. The Browns got outplayed, outworked, outcoached, out-executed, out-everything, out-toughed. And this was a disgrace to watch for the first 58 minutes of the game.
Yeah, man, we went from this team ain't good to questioning if it was Deshaun Watson to drinking the false hope, off that hope dope. So now we really realize, like, man, this team is awful across the board. Like, we just ain't got it this year. 2024 was not it for the Cleveland Browns. I don't know what the hell happened from last week to this week. We was running play action. We had some type of balance of a run game. Now they in empty formations again. Like they back spreading it out. It just seemed like, Nick Chubb can't pause. Nick Chubb can't get it going. The wide receivers wasn't good. Dustin Hopkins getting kicks blocked left and right. It seems like every time the Cleveland Browns go play zone, either Denzel Ward don't know what he should be doing or the safety don't know what he should be doing. Like, it was just bad all the way across the board. And I'm somebody who thought Winston could be a bridge quarterback or somebody that was a short to long-term option for the Cleveland Browns. No, that was a Jimmy Donovan game last week. That was Jim Donovan inspired. And we back to normal this week. So here we are.
G. Bush.
How y'all doing, man?
I'm doing terrible. I hate everything right now. The only positive is the Cavs are 7-0, and it's 60 degrees in Cleveland.
You see the wine. You see the wine.
Man, yeah, man. They're back to the drawing board on this one.
Yeah.
Hey, man, Browns is bad, man. They are really, really. They are really bad. They are this is what I guess my thesis is, as much as we may want to think and want to do certain things, this ain't a quick fix. It's not a quick fix. There's too many things that are wrong all over the place to pinpoint anything. It's just, we talked about quarterback play for such a long time, and then Jameis Winston played well last week, and this week he was looking like Deshaun Watson, skittish, didn't know where to throw.
As bad, if not worse, than Deshaun today.
At least Deshaun Watson ain't never threw that many picks. And it was back to, and I thought Earl picked up on something. It was back to the 5 wide shotgun plays. It was back to the let's toss it all around the park and fit. No run game, nothing, no movement up front. And the most disappointing part of it is, the secondary, they didn't even really give you a chance to even win the game. You know how difficult it is to get touchdowns? They gave up 2 touchdowns that were just wide open.
Inexcusable.
Both of them in 3rd and long situations too.
Yep.
3rd and 12, 3rd and 20 something. And if it wasn't for certain things, I would be infuriated, right? But the fact that they just trot around, I'm tired of seeing Juan Thornhill. I'm tired of seeing his number 1 digit. I'm tired of seeing him just blow coverages, not make plays. Him and Denzel Ward gave up 2 plays that was just.
Tillman just had an incredible touchdown catch.
That was an incredible touchdown, by the way.
Great touchdown catch by Tillman.
Yeah. Secondary, and I'm a celebration type guy, but there's something to be said with all of the high fives and all that kind of stuff. Y'all said, think about this. To practice all them handshakes, they got to be after practice. They got to be in meetings. To everybody have a different handshake.
Mm-hmm.
All the gang signs that y'all throwing up. all of that. But
Yeah.
you can't say that's a cover two. Cover two right there. You have him. No, and then they tried after the play. Come on. It's just, I can't get mad about it.
Earl and G, do you want to start with the offensive play calling or the secondary miscommunications? I'll give you guys a choice. Where do you want to start?
We can start with there. I just want to let G know me and my brother's handshake is longer than that.
Right.
So you're right. These things is choreographed.
I was thinking about doing one with y'all at UCSS. Everybody would have one, and then I just said that's way too much time. I could just, if I was going to do that, I would have sent my fence rider questions in on time. If I'm going to do that.
All right, so let's start with the secondary then, because we're on that. We'll go back to the play calling. It is inexcusable, and Tyvis has said this 5,000 times on UCSS. This defensive secondary is way too talented to have basic communication breakdowns and coverage busts to the extent that the Browns do. If it happens once from here and there, it happens. It happens to the best teams. It happens. But it seems to happen to the Browns week in and week out. Today, and I'm going to put the dots in here so we can kind of look at the plays in a sec once G or Earl goes. I have to download them first. But when you see the dots, I actually think both of these were on Denzel Ward more than they were on Juan Thornhill. And I'll explain to you guys why in a sec when you see the dots. But G and Earl, I'm curious. With JOK out, they had Diabate calling the defensive plays. He had the green dot on today for the first time in his NFL career. I'm curious if maybe the communication breakdowns, because it looked like Ward was playing cover 2 and Thornhill was playing cover 3 on the Johnston long touchdown. And I'm not quite sure what the coverage breakdown was on the first touchdown on the 3rd and 21 or whatever it was. But, G, as someone who played at that level, is there a chance that Diabate, being a first-time quote-unquote defensive play caller wearing the green dot, miscommunication, misrelayed the information back to the secondary? Like, is that just a possibility? And I'm going to get it here, so hold on.
That's one your safeties in the corner, because it looks, you could tell, like, Denzel Ward is looking at Juan Thornhill like, yo, you got that dude. Like, I'm supposed to have help on that. To me, when we was giving out calling coverage calls, there was individuals that will be in the secondary that's a safety that would call the calls, and then the linebacker in the middle would set the strength of the formation and give the call left or right, right? And so that would tell the defensive lineman, okay, where are we going to line? Where's Sam and Will linebacker are going to go based on strength? And then in the secondary, those secondary calls are usually done by one of the safeties. And I would expect for myself that even if Jim Schwartz had a first-time guy calling those plays up front, I would expect that he would have that responsibility be with somebody that's in the secondary that's making those calls, that's used to making those calls. So for me, I don't think it's a Diabate issue. I think it's one of those things, and as we watch Zadarius Smith on the sideline, he looks like he already got the news he's rolling out. He's like kind of like hanging out doing his thing. But I think that's on Juan Thornhill, and that's on Denzel Ward. And by the way, the same thing happened this year against the Cowboys. The same thing's been happening a lot of other places.
I look at it like the first one, a long one, right? When Quinton.
No, the second was the long one. First was the
okay. So the first one is when the first one I thought was on Grant Delpit more than it was on Denzel Ward. I thought he kind of got caught looking with his eyes in the backfield. On that particular play, Thornhill had his assignment, and I thought Delpit was the one who missed the first one. The second one, I did think it was more on Denzel Ward than it was Juan Thornhill. You know, me and Mike joked before you got on, G, this is the second year in a row to where it seems like when you have these huge coverage busts in the secondary, that Denzel Ward has been a part of all of them. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, you know, is it Denzel who don't know where he needs to be or what his assignment is when you get in those situations? But, you know, I've never played football on that high of a level, but I agree with G. I don't think Diabate being a play caller on defense had anything to do with anything. This is the second year that Denzel Ward, Juan Thornhill, and Grant Delpit has been in the system. And it's not like they have not had these miscues and miscommunication mishaps before. And so you would think that they would overemphasize correcting those issues and making sure that those are not a problem. But, you know, for the most part, I know the score didn't indicate it. The stats really didn't indicate it. But for the most part, the Browns defense played damn good ball. You know, for a point there throughout the game, outside of 3 or 4 plays, like they was really balling out. It's just unfortunate that those 3 or 4 plays happen at the most crucial moments of the football game.
Gee, this is the long play. This is what I meant why I think it's more on Ward than Thornhill. As soon as the ball is snapped, you can see the dots. Thornhill goes to the middle of the field if he's playing cover 3, and Ward just doesn't carry whatsoever up the outside. I think Ward thinks he's playing cover 2, and everyone else in the field thinks they're playing cover 3. So I don't know if you could give us a little diagnosis on that, but these are the dots. You can see Ward 21 and Thornhill. He immediately goes into a cover 3 pattern, and Ward just doesn't carry the vertical whatsoever.
So, here's the thing I'll say about this. You won't know exactly what it is, and that's the problem with trying to diagnose whose job it is and whose role, who messed up. When it could be a different call. If somebody thinks it's one call and another person thinks it's another call, then you're screwed. So we don't know what the call was in the huddle. We don't know what their assignments were. All I know is this: it don't happen in college. It don't even happen in high school like that.
Yeah,
that's the part that gets me, and I'll disagree to a certain extent, because in the NFL, these games, and I always fight against this. In the NFL, these games come down to 1 or 2 plays. That's what they come down to, because everybody is so good. Everybody is a professional, and these games come down to 1 or 2 plays. And it's either did you make them or you didn't. And when you do that, and it's third, and think about this awareness.
It's 3rd and long. You can't let someone behind you on 3rd and long.
If you're confused on what it is, you can call timeout. If you're confused on what you're calling, it's 3rd and 20 something. You can't not only that, you gave up touchdowns. Yeah. That's 2 touchdowns. Take those 2 touchdowns back. What's the score?
14-13.
So we can say we played well for most of the game. That's not professional football. I'll take that for the JV game down in Kent McKinley. We almost had them, and if it wasn't for that one play where we fumbled, it cost us a good game. Well, listen, dog, you did cost yourself the game. I mean, it is what it is.
Like, ain't no unit gonna play lights out or perfect for 60 minutes, right? I think there's got to be an expectation that the other team is gonna do something.
No, you can't give up them. You can't give it. Like if we give those up, we might as well not be watching football no more.
I'm not disagreeing with that. That's why I worded it that way. Outside of those 3 or 4 plays, I thought they played okay for the better part of the game. But I mean, those 3 or 4 plays is would make the difference in the game. So,
and I thought the Chargers G2, like, they kind of took the foot off the gas in the second half. They ran a real vanilla, just don't turn the ball over, don't make mistakes offense. You give up those 2 big plays, you get down in a hole like that. When the Browns offense puts up 3 points or 6 points, whatever it was, until the middle of the 4th quarter, 3 points in the middle of the 4th quarter, the defense has to play perfect. And you have 2 coverage busts like that on 3rd and long. That negates all the positives you do. And it stinks because we had a superhuman Myles Garrett performance today.
It's crazy.
I thought superhuman. That dude is otherworldly. He was going against Rashawn Slater, who's one of the better left tackles in football. Joe Alt, he had a sack against a really good rookie right tackle for the Chargers. They hadn't given up many sacks and/or pressures all season on the exterior. All their pressures and issues from an offensive line standpoint have been on the interior. And Myles made those kids look like JV athletes. And it's crazy. The Browns had 6 sacks in the first half and were down 17. Like, think about that. They had 6 sacks in the first half and were down 17 at the break. It makes no sense. And it's just an abomination from an offensive standpoint to go from 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, putting up 29 points against the Ravens, to not being able to do jack squat against a Chargers team that they were better than I thought they were, but they weren't world beaters. Mm-mm. They were world beaters today.
I think people underestimated how well their defense is, right? This is a team that has given up over 20 points, I think, once this season. This is a team that when it comes to total defense, I think they're right there in the top 10. They give up somewhere right at 300 yards a game. They're top 10 in pass defense and a top 10 in run defense. So this is a team that's been good on the defensive side of the ball all season. You know, I thought a lot of people thought their defense was kind of overrated, but it's real. And, you know, I didn't expect the Browns offense to struggle the way that it did, but I knew last week's game and this week's games was going to be night and day. Last week, he was going up against the Baltimore Ravens pass defense. It was dead last in the NFL. They had a couple key corners that was inactive on game day, and you caught them coming off a short week. You fast forward to this week, you're going up against a team that for whatever reason, you just can't seem to beat them, even if you play well. The last time we beat the Chargers, they were in San Diego, and it was 2016. I had brush waves. I had brush waves, right? So it just seems like for whatever reason, whether you go there or come here, man, they seem to have your number. The Browns just didn't show up to play. Like, you give up that many points at home. I think that's the first time that the Browns have given up over 20-something points in a home game like that in quite some time, at least in the Kevin Stefanski era. And so, like, you look at all these different, issues that we have. And I think G said it when he popped on, like, man, our issues are plentiful, right? And, we got a very, very important day coming Tuesday, right? And by 4:00 that day, we already know Zadarius Smith, he's on his way to Detroit. It'd be interesting
right now
to see. Yeah,
I think
it'd be interesting to see who for the same.
G.
Yeah. So I think this is the bigger picture story for people in the media and in just Browns fans in general. This isn't just we've been wanting to say it's one thing, and that's it's easier to do that, right? So if you go to the doctor and they give you a diagnosis, right, and they say, I'm feeling bad, I don't got no energy, I'm sick, I'm throwing up, and this is the worst I've felt in a long time. They give you some medicine and it still don't work. They give you antibiotics, it still don't work. They tell you to change your diet, it still don't work. They give you CAT scans, MRIs, all that. After you do all of that, you just really want them to tell you, just put it on something, right? Just say it. I could deal with it if it's the big C word.
It's a mental thing.
Just let me know, like, if it's in my nerves, because what you start doing is you start thinking you're crazy, because if they can't give you a diagnosis, all you know is just the worst you ever felt, and they don't know what's wrong with you. And so you want one thing to be pinpointed. It's just like that when you're talking about the Browns. We would love it for it to be just a quarterback, or maybe the offensive line is old, or maybe we don't have receivers, playmakers, or maybe the secondary is just not good, or what. But guess what? It's so many different things that you're going to have to be uncomfortable going to offseason, because you're not going to get no answer from a lot of this stuff. I mean, this is perplexing. I mean, you come into a game where you played well, and then the defense just seems like they didn't show up, right? You ran the ball well last week, or well enough to run play action. You come in and the game is in told. The announcers talked about 3 play action fakes today. 3 play you dominated in the play action. But today you come in and you never made the Chargers get out of their zone defense, and they sat on your underneath routes. And then so now it's like, well, man, is it back to the scheme? Because they locked us up. Like, the Chargers had a game plan where it was like Winston's getting to his back foot, throwing the ball on time, and all of a sudden he came in and he's pulling the ball down, running around like he don't know what coverage it is. So it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's just not one thing. It's just not.
It's a collection of errors. I asked this question on UCSS, I think 3 times, and I kept getting pushback, but did we overrate the talent on this roster? I think it's evidently clear that there are a lot of guys we had high expectations for this season who, for one reason, another, injury, age, deteriorating skills, just aren't at the level we thought. Earl and G both brought up some of the offensive schemes that the Browns tried to utilize today. And I'm a firm believer that the head coach, the offensive coordinator, they all come together to put together the game plan. And that's more important than necessarily the play calls on Sunday, right? The play sheet is more important than the actual play calls. I hated, and let me emphasize this and make this very clear. I hated the game plan, and I hated the play calls even more. Now, the one thing, so I hated both. So I'm not giving either one a pass, whether it's Stefanski, I did not like either today. 2 things from Ken Dorsey's tenure in Buffalo that people in Buffalo were very vocal about when they moved on from him and promoted Joe Brady to offensive coordinator. Dorsey got away from the run game too quick, and he did not like under center play action things. He wanted to spread you out. He was brought here to help Watson with the spread concepts, spread it out, and he got away from the run. Stefanski's just as culpable because the game plan heading into this just seemed way off, and they didn't seem to attack any of the Chargers' weaknesses and whatnot. Dorsey's the one calling plays. I didn't like how he handled the red zone situation that ended up in a pick. I thought they got away from running Nick Chubb way too often. They were predictable. How many times on 1st and 10 did they just hand it to Nick Chubb up the middle? Like, guys, at some point you have to be a little more versatile. And then to Earl's point, why are we spreading them out? The play action works so well against Baltimore. I understand the run game wasn't as effective, and when your run game's not as effective, it's harder to run play action. But even the threat of play action, I think, is a more effective way to attack a Chargers defense than just spreading guys out and having an offensive line that was atrocious today try and protect for Jameis. I hated the game plan. I hated the play calls. And when you put that all together, you have a giant offensive storm. We can't curse on Bleacher Report still, which is what we witnessed today.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with everything what Mike just said, because even if you go to, so we, excuse me, we get the inactives list around 11:30 every morning. And the first thing I said to myself was, why is Deontay Foreman inactive?
Yep.
And my coworker goes, well, because Jerome Ford is back. And I said, well, what the hell Jerome Ford has ever done to kind of get that spot? To me, I kind of felt like, now you can't take the same game plan into each week. You got to kind of differ things up, depending on the opponent. But like the nuts and bolts of it, you could have carried that over. You could have carried over the play action, right? Even like the Browns ran the ball 23 times for like 83 yards last week, but you had that threat of a run game. Yeah. As soon as it wasn't working today, you get away from it. You become one-dimensional. You see Jameis Winston in shotgun a lot. You see this 4 or 5 wide set, and this team is constantly. I mean, everybody that has watched a greater set of eyes, they know that this team is not built to play that type of football or to play that way. Why they continue to try to force that, who knows? And it becomes so frustrating because as fans of this team or people who cover this team, it's like, why is it that you don't kind of go back to the well of what worked for you the week before? Like, we seen them beat Jacksonville a certain type of way, and the moment you got to Jacksonville, you get away from what helped you win that game. We seen the Browns win last week against a damn good Ravens team. They played a certain way, and they came out victorious. Today, I don't know what this was. And to your point, Mike, like, if this is what Ken Dorsey and Kevin Stefanski schemed up as far as a game plan all week long,
send them to Mars.
We got bigger problems than what we think, man.
Yeah.
This the funny thing. It's too many. Like I said before, man, it's too many games left. Like, you got to think, right? You going into the bye week. What, you 2-7?
2-7.
You 2-7 going into the bye week. It's way too many more games left in this season, and the longer that you don't perform, the longer you don't do something, I think the reality will set into you. And I said this a couple of weeks ago. The worst thing that might have happened for everybody involved was Deshaun Watson getting hurt, because we can't even say his name. Like like you have to, like, it's like you have to drink your own. You got it. You made your bed. Now you laying in it. And it's almost like you can't pivot. You can't say, but like, he's long gone. So now you're like, okay, well, what's really the problem? I mean, Jameis Winston came in, he's looked terrible. That's another quarterback. DTR came in the game and he wasn't no better. So what is it? So the offensive line, play calling, you got a lot more games. And the more games you come out and you look like that, it's going to be harder and harder to run from it, because the blame is going to start to trickle down finally to the guys that are on the sidelines and in the front office, because they don't look like a professional team. Like, they're not competitive, really. Like, the Chargers were never pressed in this game.
No,
they were completely comfortable. Like, and whatever they wanted to do, like, hey, like, we could have got more points. Like, we was kind of like, we took our foot off the gas.
They felt so comfortable that to end the first half, they ran like a 7 lateral play like you see in Pee Wee football. And you know what? I thought they were going to score. And then, I swear, I don't know how you guys felt during that play. If you could have paused in the middle of that play, I would have bet, $20 that ends in a touchdown. Like, they just seem to have that executed and scripted out ahead of time. And it feels like the Browns, they struggle to execute the most simplest concepts. They have receivers in the same area, in the same passing windows way too often. And we don't know. Is it Dorsey? It's like, it's a collaboration, so they're all at fault. But it's just, to your point, G, it never felt close. And from an offensive line standpoint, the Browns' protection took a gigantic step back. Morgan Fox was the best player on the field today. I know Megan Fox. I've never heard of Morgan Fox
in my life.
And Morgan Fox had 2 sacks, should have had 3, deflected 2 balls at the line of scrimmage, forced a fumble. That guy was a monster. I checked his Madden rating just for, what's, just to see. He's like a 72. Now, Madden ratings isn't everything. I understand it's a silly thing to do, but I'd never heard of this guy. Earl, we made, 50 Chargers graphics this week? Was Morgan Fox on any graphic? And we just let a no-name dude come in and wreck an entire game plan. Listen, if Khalil Mack or a guy like Myles Garrett wrecks a game plan, you tip your cap. They're an all-pro player. They're otherworldly talented. You can't let Morgan Fox wreck your game plan. If Megan Fox wants to ruin your life, it happens. We've all been there. But if Morgan Fox is going to ruin your game plan, get out of here with that, man. It's unacceptable.
And it was like, by the way, this was the devastating part. They were in light boxes all day.
They'd be 6 in the box. Run the damn ball.
It was light boxes all day. They couldn't get movement, push. And I thought they did a good job of highlighting this. And I think this falls on a lot of people who just are surface level. Guys, I've always said it. You guys do know that you have to scheme in the run game as well. Like we get caught up and be like, oh, what's the route? What's the receiver? What's the distance? What route is they running? Did the quarterback get it? The attention to detail that you have to put in the passing game, you must also do in run concepts and run blocking.
Yeah.
But people think you just put 5 dudes up there and say we can't run. That's not how it works. Our run concepts are so whack. What happened to pulling guys? What happened to the screen game? We can set no screen games up. What happened to our double teams up front? What happened to our off tackle plays? What about the power play? What happened to putting tight ends up there and actually blocking with the tight ends?
Yeah. And Earl, you chime in on this in a sec, but I looked up Morgan Fox. He's been in the league for 8 years. He went to Colorado St. Pueblo College and had 1.5 sacks before today. He had 2 sacks today. So just so we all clear, Morgan Fox, that Shaq meme, I was unfamiliar with your game. I am now very familiar. So shout out to you. And the Chargers do deserve some credit. They kicked the crap out of the Browns today. The Browns deserve all the blame and admonishment we're giving them. Chargers were the better team today. They deserve to win. So congratulations. Earl,
how does it, Earl, I'm asking you, how does a college coach come in and in 1 year just how does that happen? How does a college coach come in and be like, oh, we're good now? We've been waiting and kicking. I don't know, man.
It's funny, man, because this conversation been held all day. You look at Justin Herbert, right? He has all the arm talent in the world. The last year or so probably have not been his best statistically since he's been in the league. But the dude is a flat out baller at the quarterback position. And, when Harbaugh came in, what did they do? They kind of traded away and got rid of all his weapons. And you would assume that with a quarterback like that, you want to get more weapons at the wide receiver position. But, with Jim Harbaugh in there, man, this is that old school football mentality stepping into 2024 where everything is spread and you attack through the air and you try to score as many points as possible. And the Chargers got a fullback. They have a real fullback on their roster, right? They run the football. They play power football. They try to win at the line of scrimmage, and they play good defense. That's an old school football mentality, and that's what Jim Harbaugh is. That's who he was at Michigan. That's who he was with the San Francisco 49ers. And so, a dude that's been removed from the game for quite some time, he comes back and he implements, that old school style right at the time to where defense is starting to take that turn as being a dominant group in the NFL once again. But, they were the better football team. They play good defense. They do enough on the offensive side of the ball to win, and they're well coached. And when you look at all those factors, that's a recipe for us to lose. I mean, the Browns was 1.5 point underdogs at home coming into this game against a team that's coming across the country. So that should have told you a lot about what Vegas thought about, the Chargers.
I'm wondering, I'm going to ask y'all this question. Y'all can chime in on the chat on this. What happens if they go to DTR and it still looks the same, right? Say after the week, bye week, They come and say, listen, we just going to figure out what we got in DTR.
Stefanski, sorry to cut you off. Stefanski speaking, he said Jameis will start against the Saints. So
okay. So
let's pick a different team. Let's say week 12.
Yeah, week
3 weeks down the road against the Broncos, they start DTR again.
So you start DTR and he's trash. What do you do?
It's easy.
What's the answer?
The easy answer is Jimmy Haslam has to determine whether or not Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are the right people to lead a rebuild. And if he believes those two are capable of it, then the rest of the season doesn't really matter. The final 5, 6, whatever the number of games is all about evaluating young talent. You see, can Jamari Thrash and Kadarius Toney and Cedric Tillman, can they be real playmakers of the future? You get guys on the defensive line in with some reps. Is Isaiah McGuire a piece in the defensive end rotation? Can Mike Hall be a starting defensive tackle? Is Diabate and Winston Reader, those guys capable of holding their own at linebacker? Cam Mitchell in the secondary, give him a bigger audition. Maybe you bench Thornhill and not bench Delpit, but you put Hickman back there and let some other guys, DeAnthony Bell, get a run at some more playing time. But if Stefanski and Berry are the guys, then you evaluate the players. If Haslam says, I'm not sure if you're the guys, well, then all the eyes, the magnifying glasses, the microscopes are pointed directly on the head coach and the general manager.
You know, because what I think is I would have to think long and hard, and the question remains. We say this sometimes, and we kind of gloss over it. Every quarterback that plays with Stefanski is competent, but are we looking for competent? Which quarterback did Stefanski have where they was Pro Bowl caliber?
That's why they traded for Watson. They tried to upgrade from competent to elite, and Watson didn't deliver that. So, but that was the point of the trade, right?
Yeah, it's a fair assessment to say, okay, well, if we're drafting a young quarterback, first of all, is Andrew Berry up to snuff and picking that guy? And is Kevin Stefanski a person I'm going to trust with the maturation of a young quarterback? Because that's not in his track record. It's not been in either one of their track records, to be honest with you.
What say you? Then we'll wrap up and do some super chats. And you're on mute. Or you muted yourself.
Yeah, you know.
There you go.
My bad. No, I look at this situation like I'm not sure if I trust Andrew Berry to make the draft picks if we have high draft picks. I'm really not sure if Kevin Stefanski is the right coach to move forward with. I think Kevin Stefanski was the right coach at the right time. You know, we're looking at the Cleveland Cavaliers right now, who kept pretty much the same roster in place, and all they switched out was the head coach, and you see a totally different basketball team through and through. Kevin Stefanski is a 2-time coach of the year. Kevin Stefanski can be, you know, you can look at Kevin and say, okay, a lot can be attributed to him and changing the culture of the Cleveland Browns, or at least giving us more recent success than this franchise has had since 1999. But just because that's the case, and just because those are the breaks, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's the right person to lead this team long term. And I think it's the same thing, like the same conversations that we had with Baker. We were so used to losing. We were so used to not having a franchise quarterback that the moment that we got something that looked a little good to us, that we were too reluctant to move on from something that could be better for us. To this point, Baker is still the most winningest quarterback in franchise history since the return of '99. He has the most consecutive starts. He got all the numbers. And a lot of people will look and say, okay, yeah, that's great. And he did his part, but the Browns kind of needed to upgrade. Now they tried that and they failed. But being a GM, in my opinion, is just like practicing medicine or practicing law. It's a practice. There's no guarantees that you're going to get it right. I'm just looking at this, you know, Kevin Stefanski, to me, I thought he ran a soft training camp. I thought he did not do enough to get his team prepared. You know, like Jason Lloyd said, I thought he lied to us, going up there every single week, telling us that Deshaun Watson gives us the best opportunity to win. I just think this is a horrible performance through and through from everybody that's a part of the front office. And we can say whatever it is we want to say about Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, but something tells me as long as Paul D. Podesta is somewhere around this organization, we're going to continue to have conversations like the one we're having right now.
All fair and valid. We're going to say goodbye to our Bleacher Report audience and get some super chats in here. If you like what you saw on the Bleacher Report app and want more of it, you can find me, Earl the Pearl, G. Bush, Adam the Bull, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, and Jay Crawford on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube Monday through Friday, 11 to 1. We appreciate you guys tuning in on the Bleacher Report app. We hope to see you guys over on YouTube very soon. All right, guys, let's get our super chats in here. Not as many today, not surprising considering the level of the team, but A.V. Williams said, Jay Crawford said it best, watch us score 4 points. A little more than 4, but it's a disgusting offensive performance. Salt Train says, was extremely disappointed with the secondary. We addressed that earlier. English Bank said, but the media told us it was all Watson's fault. He's the least of our worries. He wasn't throwing 3 picks a game. Be careful what you wish for. Earl G, either of you guys want to address that?
Nope.
No, listen, people gonna have to get their analysis tool out now, because it ain't no boiling down to nothing. I don't care who they put back there at this point. I mean, it ain't it.
I think today made something abundantly clear. If you have bad quarterback play, whether that quarterback's getting paid $230 million, whether that quarterback's getting paid $7 million, whether that quarterback's getting paid $5.50. If you have bad quarterback play, your offense is going to look like booty, right? And with Jameis Winston today, the offense looked like an abomination. With Deshaun Watson for the first 6 games of the season, the offense looked like an abomination. With DTR for a little sliver of time, the offense looked like an abomination. They could all suck, right? Like, it's just because one is better than the other and one didn't play as well doesn't mean it erases what we had. But the Browns quarterbacks this year, minus the Baltimore game, frankly, have not been very good. 2 more. Ronaldo Archer says Browns never recovered from the death of Al Lerner. And Joseph Silva, our last super chat, only 5 today, says, give me the Lions OC as the next head coach. Ben Johnson will be in high demand. They're playing the Packers right now in what is the Fox game of the week. So if you finish up with the UCSS postgame show and want to see some much better offensive football, I think there's a good chance you'll get that from Detroit and Green Bay. Earl, final thoughts?
Go Cavs.
That was my final thought. Gee, final thoughts?
Hey, man, listen, Donovan Mitchell, bro, listen, they got something cooking over here, man. Mobley, he's a unicorn now. But look, like I said before, I think the thesis for this game is, overarching theme is, yes, the quarterbacks have not played well, but there's a whole lot of things going on in Cleveland, and it's not going to be a turnaround. You can't put a Band-Aid on this one. You're going to have to go to surgery on this one. Some things is going to have to be excised. Some things is going to have to, we're going to have to do some rehab on this, because it's deeper than what we want to all say it is.
I second what G said. We'll see you tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We'll talk some of the Browns aftermath, but I promise you we'll talk more Cavs on a Monday than we ever talked any other sport on a Monday following a Browns game, because they're 7-0 and the Browns are 2-7. For Earl, for G, I'm McNuggets. See you tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.